recording once again.
Hell yeah.
What was this, episode 16?
15.
15.
Episode 15.
It's a milestone, I think.
The fact that an episode has come out for 15 weeks with only one break and on schedule with you and me involved. I mean,
I'm really good at procrastinating.
We're recording this with less than 5 hours to go for editing and releasing and dropping it.
It was Halloween weekend, man. I had stuff going on.
It's Halloween weekend.
How was your weekend?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I went out to a Halloween party dressed as a 1920s gangster with my friend Chris. He was also dressed as a 1920s gangster. And we watched some bands play. They were like cover bands. And my friend plays bass. And they played bass in a cover band called Twink 182. And they were all Blink 182 songs, but like twinks. Because it was like a twink contest. Who could dress like a twink the most was the contest. And it was awesome. And they were really good. Like the music, it was like you're at a Blink show. That shit sounded very good. It was fun.
Yeah, I took the kids up to Wisconsin. We did Three Ninjas.
Nice.
I went as Rocky. My son went as Colt. And my daughter went as Tum Tum.
And they've seen the movies, I'm assuming.
I didn't get the reception that I thought. I guess that movie's not as cool as I thought it was.
Yeah, I don't think it maybe hasn't stood up to the test of time.
Certain people knew it, and they're like, that's awesome. So
Yeah. Certain dads.
just a little recognition is all I need.
If you wanna go and take a ride with me, we're three women all crammed in the backseat. Oh, why do I live this away? Hey, must be the funny. But if you wanna take a free ride with me, make me laugh from the back of my Camry. Oh, why do I live this away? Hey, must be the funny.
You just got stuck at a four-way stop.
Hey everybody, my name is Broc with no K, and you just got stuck at a four-way stop. This is the #1 comedy podcast in Chicago, recorded primarily out of a Toyota Camry. I've been a rideshare driver for the last 6 years, and I've taken over 15,000 rides. I've strapped my car with lights, cameras, and microphones, and have my passengers tell me their funniest stories. We are here for a very spooky, or at least our funniest Halloween episode yet. It is our only Halloween episode, so it is the funniest. I don't know about you, Chase, but I'm pretty jacked up on candy right now. How are we doing today?
Hey, Brock, you're right. This episode may be the best Halloween-themed episode yet.
I mean, I'm really shooting for diabetes
I am
right
candied
now.
out. I actually overdosed on Mexican candy. It's way better than American candy. They have candy that is like a beer on a stick. They have rotisserie chicken, like lollipops. It's bananas. Doesn't taste like bananas.
I told my kids anytime that they're naughty from now on that I'm just taking a piece of candy and eating it, so
It's the dad tax.
I may be gaining some weight in the next few episodes.
Well, you're going to need it because where you're at, it gets cold, and you're going to need a little winter blubber to get you through the winter, buddy. So,
Yep.
anyways, today is Halloween, and we have a bunch of Halloween-themed stories for you guys today. We've got a story about a haunted house and what happens when you drink too much before going.
We've got a story about a stupid injury that happened at a Halloween party.
And to wrap the show, we have a story about the unsolved mystery of a missing candy heiress.
Like, I also decided that I'm telling one of my Halloween stories on why I'm not allowed at a certain football stadium anymore. But before we get to that, let's get to the first story. All right. We got Ashley in the back seat. Ashley, you said you had a good Halloween story?
Yeah, so for a corporate event, my company brought us down to Joliet, Illinois. It's about a 2-hour drive from the city of Chicago. We took a party bus down to a haunted house there. So we're obviously drinking.
Was that Statesville or whatever? Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's what it was. So it's like a haunted prison. Super scary. We were drinking on the party bus all the way down, obviously. And then we got there, and there's a bar at this haunted prison.
It's the Midwest. There's a bar connected to everything. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Serving fireball shots. So, of course, I had some of those, too. And then we entered the haunted prison, and it was the most scary haunted house I've ever been in.
It's a good one. I've been there myself.
So they have actors there that I think are from the local community, somewhat inbred, if I'm allowed to say that. So their actors were actually touching us, like jumping out and grabbing us.
Oh, that's not good. I don't think they're supposed to do that.
Yeah. So I attacked back. And was kicked out of the haunted house.
Oh no, you got kicked out?
During this corporate event. And this haunted house was like on the side of a 6-lane highway.
Yeah.
So they made me cross the highway on my own drunkenly and wait in the Menards parking lot for the rest of my corporate colleagues.
You should have went back to the bar and got more Fireball.
Yeah, they were not happy with me. I don't know if they would have served me anymore. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on and telling that story.
You're welcome.
So this story following that story is almost perfect. Went up to Lambeau for Halloween. That year, I went as, and this should be the album cover of the episode, my broccoli and cheese costume, where you can kind of see the outline of my dick.
A little veiny stalk.
So what it was a Green Man costume, and then I took like 8 or 9 afro wigs, painted them green, and then painted like cheese streaks on them. Awesome costume. Going to the Packers game, colors match. It's perfect. Everybody loved it. Except for one guy. Our seats were second to last row. We like to sit up there so that you can stand the whole time, and people behind us were cool. They were standing the whole game. Probably about midway through the third quarter, the guy behind me grabbed onto my shoulder because he was starting to fall forward. And like I started to then fall forward. I grabbed the guy's shoulder in front of me. Guy in front of me then turns around and punches me square in the sternum, sending me flying back, and then like 4 of us fell. The security guard was on me like, let's go. And I'm like, he punched me. Like, what is like, why am I getting kicked out right now? So
Yeah.
he's like, somebody said to keep an eye on you the entire game. And I'm like, why? Because I have a costume on and it's Halloween weekend. Like, go fuck yourself. So I was talking to the cops, and like I explained exactly what happened. He's like, I actually believe your story. You like don't seem that bad right now. And I'm like, yeah. So my wallet, phone, everything is in the leg portion of the Green Man costume. So I'm just like digging down into this costume.
You're inside the suit, right? Like your hand is like out of the sleeve. And you're
and I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. And there he's like, I mean, it's this pretty sweet costume. And he's like, I believe your story, but I can't let you back in. And I was like, all right, no big deal. Like, I got friends on the outside. So went outside, met up with some other people. Probably 3-4 weeks later, my mom texts me and says, you've got a letter from the Green Bay Packers. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Next time I came to town, I grabbed it and I opened it, and here's a letter from the Packers saying, you're no longer allowed at Lambeau Field unless you take an online drinking course for $75, which I refused to do because it was complete bullshit. So the very next day after that, I started dating a Bears fan.
That's what you get.
And I also want to mention the Packers haven't won a Super Bowl since, so let me back in, guys. I need to talk to some people. If anybody knows anybody, I could just take the online course, but I want an apology.
Yeah, well deserved, because that guy fell into you. I've got your back on this one.
The guy behind me fell into me. None of us fell. We all like stood up, and then he turned around and just punched me like right in the sternum.
He was waiting for his opportunity to get you.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, I think so. He didn't like us very much.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a nightmare, and a Halloween nightmare at that. And Our next story is a Halloween nightmare injury, and I'm just happy that you didn't have an injury by falling down the steep-ass stadium, and that ended up being the story we had to listen to next. Does that make any sense?
That
or
was,
am I just rambling?
that was in Kansas City.
Tight. Cool. So should we get to the next story or what?
Yeah, I think so. I hope you guys enjoyed that story.
Yeah, thanks for telling her that.
We got Sadie and...
I'm Elizabeth, Sadie's
Elizabeth.
younger sister. By
Perfect.
how old are you?
I'm 23.
And I'm 20 years old.
Okay.
3 years.
So 3 years younger. So picture this. Let me set the scene for you.
It was a beautiful 3-day before Halloween afternoon.
And all I wanted to be was a Greek goddess. I think that's what
What?
any little girl wants to be, is a Greek goddess. And I also decided that I wanted to play on the playground with my sister 3 days before Halloween.
No. So
How old were you guys?
Third grade.
Okay.
I was probably like 5th grade.
Yeah.
So to set the scene better, my parents were in the process of selling their house.
Yes.
There was an open house going on.
Yes.
My mom, being the stalker that she is, decided to camp out in front of the house and sent my dad with me and my sister and our other sibling to the park to get us out of the house while she was
Stalking.
all the
Creeping
people
on the
who
people
were coming in and out of the house. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we flash forward to the playground. I'm just minding my own business, and then I see this beautiful spinny bar, very metal contraption. Now,
So-
in combination with this contraption, I also had probably the worst overbite anyone has ever seen on a little girl. Like,
She
looked
had
like a
bad,
squirrel,
like buck teeth.
chipmunk
Really bad.
running around. Couldn't close my mouth. My teeth rested on the outside of my bottom lip at all points of time. Anyways, you can take it from here.
Yeah, but you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use your imagination.
Yeah.
And she's got like freckles, big cheeks, like very, very chickmunk.
It's giving the girl from Nemo that shook the fish in the bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now what did you do, Sadie?
So
Isn't that her name, Sadie, the little girl
Is
that
it?
you're talking
Oh,
about?
I don't know.
If it is, that's
That would
on
be
brand.
iconic.
Yeah. Okay, continue. What did you do to me?
Well, so it was like this pole that there was like 2 metal poles that were connected in the middle, and you could hang on to it, and when you hung on to it, you could like swing around, and it spun in circles.
Yeah.
So I was holding on to one side, Elizabeth was holding on to the other side.
Naturally.
And I was like, oh, it'll be so funny if I just like start spinning it really quickly and she'll like jerk around. It'll be really scary. However,
I didn't have
wasn't-
the best balance.
and she wasn't actually holding onto the pole. She was just standing in its
near
path.
its wrath
So I spin the
pole
whatever as hard as possible.
into my 2
Right into
front
her-
buck
yeah.
teeth. And those instantly shattered. It felt like sand in my mouth.
You could I watched them disintegrate.
In front of her face, and I was spitting out my teeth on the playground.
Blood going everywhere.
I couldn't feel anything because the nerves in my mouth were just like destroyed. Well, all I know is that I ran to my dad, and he had no idea how to handle the situation. Like, zero clue.
Yeah.
He just kind of grabbed me and was like, "Come on, kids, we're leaving."
We gotta go get your mom.
Yeah.
So, we're frantically calling our mom, like, Operation Creep on the people who are trying to buy our house is canceled. Like, we have to go to the dentist right now.
Yeah.
Who was the dentist who was hanging out with his family.
Naturally.
The dentist was actually closed.
Yeah.
However, he opened the practice just for Elizabeth because when my mom explained to him the extent of the damage, he was like, I need to fix this immediately because it's so bad.
Well, not immediately. It was precisely 4 days later, a day after Halloween.
Well, he had to look at it immediately to make sure, like,
This is true.
her
Okay.
teeth weren't dead.
Yeah.
So his extremely furious wife drops him off, shooting me and Elizabeth and our mother dirty looks the entire time.
I shot her my crumpled teeth right back.
Yeah. Just give her a big.
I was like,
Yeah.
lady, this is not the time.
You know.
But while it all ended fine, and now I love my teeth, and I'm grateful that they were smacked out of my face by a metal pole, I
You're
will
welcome.
say I wasn't grateful when I was in 3rd grade dressed as a Greek goddess and I looked like a vampire because my teeth were literally missing in shards.
You definitely should have gone with a different
costume.
that,
I should have switched it up.
that involves like a UFC fighter or something.
Yeah.
I can still like
Hockey
see
player.
the costume. It was like this white like drapery with like pink and gold specks, and it
Yeah.
was gorgeous.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But I was in extreme pain and I couldn't eat any candy.
Our little teeth shards.
They were literally like shards of my teeth. It wasn't even like a tooth.
It wasn't a clean break. It was.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming on and telling that awesome
Nice.
Halloween story.
Thanks for listening to the show so far. I just wanted to give you all a quick update. We are still developing the YouTube show. I gave you a quick introduction to it last week, completely redesigning how we're going to present the content to you in video format. I have been editing, and I'm getting really close to having something for you. And we're just working on the script, and we're working on some music, and we're just working on a couple of other things before we can start shooting and editing and getting ready for release. So if you are excited about that, please follow us on YouTube so that when we do drop these videos, you can see them.
They're ready. You're ready for it. You're going to see it. It's going to come to your phone.
Yeah, you'll get that little ding ding. Get the ding dong, bing bong.
Get that ding dongs.
Anyways, that's all. So that's all. That's the only news I got for you. And the next story is, I'm really excited about that. I actually just listened to it for the first time today, and I just edited it today because I thought it was so hot that it was worth including. It is, the Broc candy.
Nope,
Like the
it's
worst.
Broc.
Is it called Broc candy? I thought it was
It's Brock's candy.
Brach. Well, it's the worst candy corn, whatever other ungodly, terrible flavors. There is a really interesting unsolved mystery. So Andrew has a really interesting story about the Broc candy
Brock
mystery.
solved.
It's solved. It is solved.
So we're back again.
Hey, Brock with a K.
No.
Brock with no K. Excuse
No
me.
K. All the other Brocks have a K, and they all suck. No.
Well, are you related to the Brock Candy Company?
No, that is Brach.
Do you know the story with the Brock Candy Company? Speaking of Halloween themes,
No.
So I'm from Glenview, Illinois.
Okay.
And
Is that
Brock Candy Company is where I don't know her name, but she was married to the person who was, I think his last name was Brock.
Okay.
So he owned that candy company, and she disappeared in like the 80s, I think it was. Ooh. Her mansion, her estate, is not far from where I grew up, and apparently there are stories of it being haunted.
Lovely.
Where
I want to
go like this really, like, you can see it's kind of like, and it's spooky because sometimes there's fog out there, and my sister knew the person who lived there growing up. Like, this is like 10 years later after the disappearance of the heir of this company of the money or whatever it was, because I think it had something to do financially. But basically, the family that lived there afterwards said spooky things would happen, where things would disappear, doors shutting, hearing eerie things.
There would just be candy wrappers.
There was like candy, like kind of some candy stuff that was just kind of weird, like this Brock candy. I guess, I don't know, what is it, candy corn? But basically, what happened to this person? I don't know her first name, but she either, what they suspect, because that someone that worked on the property had something with the mob, and she found out, and something with financial, where they were kind of basically taking advantage of her. And while she was going on, like, they saw her on the cam because they were trying to figure out what happened to her. They could never find her because they saw her get on the airplane, like in O'Hare, or I think it was going to Minnesota, and yet they could never find her. She disappeared, and some people think she actually was killed, knocked off in Indiana in one of the steel mills. Her and her dogs or something, but yet her place is completely haunted. And that's like something, when you think of Brock candy, you'll be like, oh.
I'm going home.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go look up the story of the Brock Candy Company.
Brock Candy. I'm like, let me see if I can find her
curious.
name. Like, because it is like, you can find old newspapers about her disappearance. So, in 1977, it wasn't the 80s, so it was 1977 disappearance. One man was sentenced in the murder conspiracy of Chicago Candy Company heiress Helen Brock. He was released from prison. Richard Bailey, 89, was released Thursday from a federal prison in Florida after serving his time. And he was released in July 26, 2019. She vanished more than 40 years ago, one of the greatest Chicago unsolved murder mysteries. Her body was never found, but she was legally declared dead when investigators suspected her remains were dissolved in a chemical vat or blast furnace in 1977.
Hang on. Yeah, I just found something that says cold case solved after 37 years.
Oh, did they find?
Missing Candy Harris was kidnapped, beaten, shot, and disposed of in steel furnace on orders from notorious Chicagoland horse dealer. Oh.
Yeah. It's like, what a way to go. Like, you know.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
So thank you again for listening. If you like what you hear, please follow us on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, on Twitter, and YouTube. You can find the show at Four-Way Stop Podcast. You can also find me at Chase Effectivo on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can find me on Instagram at Broc with no K. And see you next Tuesday.